Good morning, everybody. We're almost through a week. It's Thursday. I hope you're looking forward to worshiping Jesus this Sunday. Worship with us here at First Baptist in person and on campus at 9 o'clock in our traditional service or 11 o'clock in our contemporary service. And you can also watch us online on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So I hope you'll make a commitment to do that. And our New Testament reading plan today, we are in John chapter 13. Hope you've already read the chapter. This is the chapter that tells about the Lord's Supper and Jesus' last meal with his disciples in the upper room. But where I want to focus is something that kind of jumped out at me is all the verses in this chapter that tell us Jesus knows the future. So let's just walk through those, and then I'll make a brief comment. Chapter 13, verse 1. Now, before the feast of Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So in verse 1, Jesus knew that the time of his crucifixion, resurrection, and then ascension back to the Father in heaven was at hand. So he knew the day was here, knows the future. Drop down in chapter 13 to verse 11. For he knew the one who was betraying him. He knew it was going to be Judas before it ever happened. Drop down to verse 19. From now on, Jesus is speaking to his disciples, and he says, from now on, I am telling you before it comes to pass, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he. Jesus was telling them different things about himself and about what was going to happen and what would happen to them. And he says, now I'm telling you all of this stuff in advance so that once it happens, you'll realize, wow, Jesus really was who he said he was. So he's telling them what is to come in the future. And then verses 25 to 27. During the dinner, the Passover meal, when he institutes the Lord's Supper, he, leaning back on Jesus' bosom, this is John, okay, the disciple that Jesus loved, leaning on Jesus' bosom, said to him, Lord, who is it? Who's the one that's going to betray you? And Jesus then answered John, this is the one for whom I shall dip the morsel and give it to him. And so when he had dipped the morsel, the piece of bread, he took and gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. And after the morsel, Satan entered into him, and therefore Jesus said to Judas, what you do quickly. So here Jesus took this piece of bread, dipped it, and then gave it to Judas, indicating that he knew again the future, that Judas was the one who was going to betray him. Now look in chapter 13 at verse 36. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? Jesus said, where I go, you cannot follow me now. Jesus was going to go to the cross and then death and then heaven back to the Father. And Jesus said, Peter, you can't come with me yet, not now. You will someday in the future, but not now. But you will follow me later. And Peter said to him, so Jesus was, he knew where he was going. He also knew that eventually Peter would go through the same experience. In fact, church tradition tells us Peter was crucified himself. And so Jesus, again, knowing the future. And then verse 38, Jesus answered, because Peter said, Lord, I'll die for you. And Jesus said, will you lay down your life for me? Really? Really? Truly, truly. Hey, Peter, got news for you. I say to you, a rooster will not crow until you deny me 3 times. So again, Jesus telling Peter ahead of time that Peter was going to deny him. Jesus knowing the future. And again, jumping ahead over in chapter 14, verse 29, Jesus says, now I have told you before it happens, so that when it happens, you will believe. So you have this in the New Testament in many places, but here in this chapter, I just thought it was interesting. There are several examples of Jesus talking about the future, knowing the future, telling them what was going to happen. Well, that's great. What does that have to do with you and me? Just this. If Jesus knows my future, why would I refuse to trust him? If Jesus knows your future, doesn't it make sense that you should trust him in what he says? If he knows the future, then he knows what he's talking about. So listen to him. Pay attention to him. His words should carry absolute influence in your life because He knows what's going to happen. So listen to Him. Why do we argue with Jesus so much? Why do we argue with His Word, His guidance, His direction? If Jesus knows the future, I can't think of a better person to listen to. Can you? So stop arguing with Jesus. Listen to Him and then do what He says. Hey, look forward to being with you tomorrow as we wrap up this week of Daily Devotions. God bless you. See you tomorrow. And also looking forward to you being with us Sunday for worship. Have a great day.